Hi guys, today we will be taking a look at Unit 1, Week 1, Day 1 in our slides. And for this lesson, we will be using our language arts book called Government for the People. Please make sure you have the English one because this lesson will be in English. So we will be reading the story called Working Together, which can be found on page 4 and page 5. Yeah. So if we look at the directions on the slides, the directions say that we will be identifying key details in paragraphs 1, 2, and 3 of Working Together. Then we will write the main idea for each paragraph. In this video, I will model how to identify key details in paragraph 1, and then you will be identifying key details in paragraphs 2 and 3. So I'm going to open up my story. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to skim through the story. So by skimming, I mean just kind of taking a look at the title, which is Working Together. Okay. I'm going to take a look at the photographs. I see this map of the United States, and then I'm going to read the caption. It says, the purple section shows where the worst flooding was expected. The city of Fargo is located in that purple section. Okay, so I know that this story has something to do with flooding and possibly a bad flooding that occurred in Fargo. Okay, so here's Fargo. I'm also looking at this photograph and I see a bunch of teenagers working. Looks like they're working, and I'm going to read the caption. It says, Fargo citizens, including students, spent almost 44,000 hours filling sandbags. It was hard work, but fun. So the title is Working Together, and I noticed right away that these students, which are the Fargo citizens, are working together. And what are they doing? Well, they are filling sandbags. So I kind of already have an idea of what this might be about, and I haven't even read it yet. So people in Fargo working together, maybe due to a flooding. So let's go ahead and identify those key details. Before I do that, I want to clarify, what does identifying key details mean? Well, the word identify means to look for. So I know we're going to be looking or identifying for key details. We're going to be looking for key details, but what are key details? Key details are important parts of a story, such as maybe what the story is mostly about. Key details can also be who is in the story. Key details might be what happens in the story, but remember just the important parts, right, that happen in the story, like the beginning, the middle, the end. And a key detail could also be about where it takes place. Just the most important thing is that we know that key details are only the important parts of a story, okay? So going back, I am going to read paragraph 1, and I am going to look for those important parts. The title of this article tells me that this is about working together. That's the story, the title, Working Together. So I'm going to underline any details that illustrate examples of people working together. And here I go. The National Weather Service predicted that bad flooding would hit Fargo, North Dakota in 2013. The city needed a plan to protect people from flooding. Okay, these two sentences tell me about a problem faced by the city of Fargo in North Dakota and a need for a solution. This sounds like the sort of thing that might require people to work together. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to underline that detail. So people, the city of North Dakota needed a plan to protect people from flooding. That is important. Remember, a key detail is an important part of a story. And so far, I know that there's a flood coming and the city where the flood is going to happen needs a plan, right? So let's keep reading. So elected officials from the federal, state, and city governments met. Working as a team, they began to prepare for the flooding. Okay, so I read that different officials met and began working as a team. This relates directly to the title of the text, correct? Working as a team is the same thing as working together. So I'm going to go ahead and underline that. Working as a team, they began to prepare for the flooding. Okay, let's keep reading. They wanted to keep water out of homes and businesses and off of streets. So they decided to fill 1 million sandbags. Okay, so these sentences tell me that the officials plan to use sandbags to keep the water out. Since this is the result of the officials working together, I'm going to underline this sentence. So what did they do when they were working together? They were filling 1 million sandbags. Oops. And lastly, it says they plan to use the sandbags to build walls to keep the flood water out. I'm going to stop right there. I don't want to over highlight, but let me go back and read what I highlighted. So the city needed a plan to protect people from flooding. Working as a team, they began to prepare for the flooding. And how did they prepare for it? Well, they filled 1 million sandbags. This all relates back to the title, Working Together. Those are my key details. In this paragraph, these 3 things are the most important things that happened. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the slides and I'm going to type in the key details that I highlighted. And I'm just going to, you know what, I'm just going to do, oops. Here we go. Oh, yeah. All right, the first thing I highlighted was, the city needed a plan to protect people from flooding. So I'm going to type that. People of Fargo needed a plan to prepare for the upcoming flood. Okay. I'll worry about spelling later. The next thing I highlighted was working as a team, they began to prepare for the flooding. So who worked as a team? Well, I know that the federal, the state, and the city government, they are the ones that prepared for the flood together. They're the ones that worked as a team. So I'm going to go ahead and write that. So I'm just going to put officials, and I'm kind of writing this in my own words because this is going to help me write my main idea later. So officials from local, state, and federal government worked as a team, right? Worked as a team to prepare for the flood. And lastly, the last thing that I underlined was that, okay, they decided to fill 1 million sandbags. So how did these officials work together to prepare for the flood? What did they do? They planned to fill sandbags to keep the flood water out. Okay, and I am done writing my key details now. So now the next step is to write the main idea for each paragraph. So I already found the key details for paragraph 1. Now I'm going to combine all of these key details to come up with a possible main idea. And I know that a main idea is what this was mostly about. I already found the most important things that happen in paragraph 1. Now I just need to come up with a sentence that puts all of this together. So let me reread it. People of Fargo needed a plan to prepare for the upcoming flood. Officials from local, state, and federal government worked as a team to prepare for the flood. They planned to fill sandbags to keep the flood water out. So what was the most important idea of this? Well, I'm just going to say government officials in Fargo, because that's where it takes place. And remember, when we're identifying key details, you know, where it takes place, if it's mentioned, that's pretty important. So let's write it in there. Government officials in Fargo worked together to do what? What were they working together for? Well, they were working together to prepare for the flood. Government officials in Fargo worked together to prepare for the flood. That is what paragraph 1 was mostly about. Now it is your turn. Now you will read paragraph 2 and paragraph 3. You will identify the key details of each paragraph, and you will also come up with the main idea for each paragraph. Remember, key details are the important parts of a story.